PFT Media.
What's up, my dudes? It's Billy D. Welcome to the Post-Mortem.
Shut up and sit down.
Today we got some exciting movies. Let's just get right into it. Number 95, Cabin in the Woods. Cabin in the Woods is fantastic. If you haven't seen it yet, what are you waiting for? This movie is funny, it's exciting, it is scary, it's got great characters, and it's a complete just spearing of the slasher conventions and horror films in general. You have to check it out. It had a long and troubled road to theaters. Holy cow. The movie was made in 2008, and it's a very odd, quirky film. It's super smart and super violent. It's just pretty crazy in general. And it's hard to believe it was even conceived of, made, and then ultimately released. The studio that made it was bought by another studio, and then that studio couldn't figure out what to do with this smart, weird little movie, so they put it on the shelf, and then luckily, one of the stars, Chris Hemsworth, was cast as Thor. And then the guy who wrote it, he was the one who was tapped to write and direct The Avengers, Joss Whedon. And Drew Goddard, who directed and co-wrote it, he went on to produce Daredevil and The Defenders and The Martian and all sorts of great stuff. 10 Cloverfield Lane. What's the deal with this movie? Cabin in the Woods is about 5 friends who take a weekend off after finals to go to a cabin in the woods. Shenanigans ensue. If you've ever seen The Evil Dead, you sort of know where it's going, but it has so many surprises if you've never seen it. And especially if you're a fan of horror films, I can't believe you haven't seen it if you're a fan of horror films. Maybe you just don't like awesome things. That could explain why you haven't seen Cabin in the Woods yet. Number 94, First Blood. First Blood is better than you think it is. It's smarter than you think it is. It's more deadly than you think it is. It's basically Sylvester Stallone as a film. It's actually just about a guy who's trying to pass through a town, maybe get a meal and take a shower, and this sheriff just has to give him the hardest time ever. Stallone had a lot of pull on set of this movie because of Rocky. The director listened to him when he had suggestions. The first cop that Rambo kills, he does it by accident, so that he's not guilty of the things that they say he's guilty of immediately. One of the most haunting parts of this film is the fact that even up until the end, the sheriff still thinks he's right. It's really an outstanding piece of cinema because it bridges the gap between 70s films and 80s films. You have this stark, realistic reaction to the Vietnam War and also the budding action hero of the 80s, especially when you look at what Rambo became. He had a Saturday morning cartoon. Think about that. That bandana and that jawline were so omnipresent in the 80s. He had a breakfast cereal. Do yourself a favor, watch First Blood. You will not be wasting your time. Numero 93. At number 93, we have Guillermo del Toro's Pan's Labyrinth. Pan's Labyrinth is pretty devastating and pretty hardcore for a fairy tale. And that's what it is. It's an R-rated fairy tale. And it has a fantastic story that mirrors Alice in Wonderland in some ways, but it can also be interpreted a bunch of different ways. And it's about a young girl named Ophelia who's taken with her mother, who's pregnant, to live with her new stepfather. And the stepfather is a commander in the Spanish army during the Spanish Civil War, and he's played brilliantly by Sergei Lopez. He is this cruel, terrible man that bashes a peasant's face in with a wine bottle in one scene for maybe lying to him. It's shocking, and it sets the tone for the film that lets you know that no one is safe. especially this little girl, because this man is desperate to have a son. This movie is so full of monsters. It is outstanding. This is Guillermo del Toro's love letter to monster making. The Pale Man, this giant that eats children, this thing. It's one of the scariest things to be put on a screen in the last 25 years, other than Mitch McConnell. Read some subtitles and watch Pan's Labyrinth. Did I mention the movie's in Spanish? It's in Spanish. It's one of Guillermo del Toro's Spanish-speaking films. And frankly, his Spanish-speaking films are mostly better than his English-speaking films. Next we have film number 92. In my head, film 92 can't be talked about without film number 93, and that's only because I have a personal attachment to both of these movies, Pan's Labyrinth and Darren Aronofsky's The Fountain. I saw both of them on the same day in the theater. So they're both in my head together forever. I thought maybe, I guess it might be cool to see two movies with giant trees in them on the same day. And The Fountain, much like a bunch of other films on this list, is a love letter of sorts to life and death. I would say this features some of Darren Aronofsky's most subtle direction. And there's this idea of shapes and ideas evolving, triangles becoming squares, turning into circles. It features a Spanish conquistador story, a modern day doctor story, and a sci-fi traveler story. It has one of the best scores I've ever heard. Clint Mansell and Kronos Quartet featuring Mogwai. Go listen to the score. It's so epic and beautiful and strained in places. It's just outstanding. The Fountain is probably Darren Aronofsky's most misunderstood movie. People really don't like it. I love it. I think The Fountain is Darren Aronofsky's best movie. Number 91. Banned in the United States. Shamed by its executive producer. Championed by its creator and director and star. This is some really out there, psychedelic, hallucinogenic, outsider cinema. Alejandro Jodorowsky's The Holy Mountain. On paper, just saying the plot of this film is gonna sound like a Mad Libs. Jesus and a quadruple amputee little person climb a giant obelisk in the center of a small town in Mexico, and they meet a wizard. And the wizard tells them they have to travel to the center of the galaxy, to the Holy Mountain, in order to achieve enlightenment. But on the way, they have to pick up the kings of all the planets. And this leads to some amazing, weird imagery. A lot of full frontal male nudity. Getting that out of the way. When Jodorowsky made this movie, he took a 2-month-long trip up a mountain with a guru and came down with the script. So it's that kind of film. He wanted to start a cult with this film. This was an announcement of a new religion of sorts. You might not like it. That's fair to say. But if you do, and you're one of the few, you're pretty awesome. Well, that's it for episode number 2 of the Postmortem. Hope you had a good time. Hope you learned a few things. Hope you get excited about weird movies. It really means a lot when you interact with us. So please, like, comment, and subscribe. Smash that like button if you have to. Stay cool. I'm Billy D. Delicious coffee.
A PFT Media production.